Hi, I'm Jack Murray, the CEO of MediaHQ, and your host for this episode of SaaStock's GTM Unlocked, who will be talking about the state of play in SaaS GTM. For this episode, I'm joined by Elio Narciso, co-founder and CEO at Scalestack. Elio, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. So let's talk about go-to-market strategies. You have a very interesting piece of software. Maybe you can tell us about your work and how you're involved in go-to-market strategies.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about this, so thank you.
That's an Italian thing, is it? Yeah.
We started Scalestack because we saw two things. The first one is that if you ask the average person working at a company, are you happy with your CRM data? So like Salesforce, HubSpot. And most people would say, oh no, the data is bad, it's like all over the place, I cannot make sense of it. And this is shocking because that data is so important for any go-to-market team. And the second thing that we noticed was that salespeople today spend the majority of their time not selling, because they spend a lot of their time, 60, 70% are the official stats, about doing manual research. Let me research companies, let me go on LinkedIn Sales Navigator and find out about people's profiles and titles. And so in the age of AI, it's pretty crazy that we have accepted that the CRM data is bad and that reps have to spend their expensive time researching to try to improve the data in the CRM.
So what do you do to make that easier?
This is what we are doing to solve that, is we create very efficient, scalable workflows. Workflow is basically a data waterfall. Imagine some boxes that perform data functions let me get the data from the CRM, let me get data from LinkedIn, let me get data from Crunchbase, from news site, from job postings. And so progressively with this data waterfall, you build a workflow that enriches the data and makes it meaningfully better, so that at the end of the workflow, the data that we put back in the CRM is fully clean, enriched, and the rep doesn't have to do any manual research. All of the data that they need to know about their prospects, target customers, target companies, and leads, it's all there for them to...
So the raw data comes in a workflow and it's enhanced through a process, and at the end there's usable data for them to action.
Insights that they can use to talk to a customer, to prepare for a meeting, but it's all done for them. They don't have to open Clearbit, open LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It's all done for them across any data source.
So if you were to advise somebody who is planning to go to market, I'm assuming when you're advising people in the workflows, there's lots of data points that people don't fully realize how rich they are and how actionable they are.
And they are the data points that really represent your ideal customer profile, the ICP. So the ICP is really a series of data points. What type of company, size, or employees, revenues, growth, how many developers they have, and things like that. All of those are data points that represent, sort of in a puzzle, the picture of your ICP. And so those are the data points that you should care about, and they will come from many different sources. Some will come from LinkedIn, some will come from news sites, some will come from the target customer, a website, the career page, or the About Us. And so the ability to collect automatically and leveraging AI to clean, synthesize the data is what we do, because at the end of that process, the simplest form of imagining what we give to customers is that each rep or marketing team knows what are the target customers they should try to sell into.
So when you are setting up a workflow to enhance and to remove the grunt work, there's so much data. How do you know?
Data is a commodity, we always say.
So how do you know when you're swimming in the ocean of data? Not all data is equal. Some data is really actionable and some data is a distraction. How can you decipher when you're with so much data, what are the things you need to act on?
Well, the first is that definitely we have a point of view about what data sources are better for which data point, and that's definitely part of the value of the workflow. But at the end of the day, what really matters is that each customer ICP, the ideal customer profile, is different than the next customer. And so what really matters is the data points that define their ICP, and go find those data points. So that at the end of the process, the data set that we create for customers is unique to them. And it can become a competitive advantage because it comes from many different sources. It needs to be clean. It needs to be dynamically updated. It needs to include signals that represent the willingness to buy for that target prospect for your company, for your product. And so that's unique to your strategy, your go-to-market, your product.
There'll be lots of people watching this or listening to this who are aware that there's a lot of grunt work, they want to automate, they want to get better. Could you give me an example of somebody you may have worked with in recent months where they were just at that point where they were ready to go to market and you implemented a solution for them to fix this problem?
Yeah, first what you should know is that we target like typically enterprise customers. So like we target customers for our own go-to-market. So our ICP is companies that already have a stable ICP. So that like they already are a product market fit. And so they are not like the early stage startups. So they are companies that already know what's their like target market and their ICP. And so one customer that like we have acquired is MongoDB. Super large company. They have like, 1,400 reps, dozens of sales territories, and they have hundreds of thousands of like potential target accounts or millions of leads that come in through the door every year. And so cleaning all of this data, enriching it, prioritizing it so that each rep in each territory knows what to do at any given time and what are the targets that are most likely to buy MongoDB is what we give them. And that has made like a meaningful difference for their go-to-market operation.
So we started out by talking about the power of AI to eliminate manual work and grunt work and creating processes. In the last 2 years, AI has come from 0 to like a very high velocity. And it seems as if we're getting to a place now where the next 2 years are completely, the argument has been won, are going to completely transform things. How do you see that working? We talked about AI agents and the ability to replace human capital with really smart AI solutions that will deliver sales results.
I think it's still extremely early. I started my career in the mobile phone industry, so like in the early 2000s. And I remember when I went like to customers, because I was in management consulting back then, and telling them, oh, like one day everybody will have a phone. And people were like, forget it, like, and like we will do everything on our phone. But it took, now it's obvious that this is what happened and that like we are living in our phones, but it took like, 10, 15 years. So even though we could see the future then, it took like many years and many iterations and many companies to like, to get
Surely this is faster though.
This is going to be faster, I agree. But like the speed of innovation technology needs to be associated to the usage that people do about technology. And we are humans, we take time like to really insert technology in our workflows, in our lives. And so what I see in the go-to-market, for instance, like in year one of like generative AI, last year, let's say, like everybody rushed to do like the sales co-pilot. Like somebody that like sends me emails on my behalf and so can send many more emails to reach many more targets. Well, guess what? Like first of all, like they clearly are written by an AI, so they're not great. And then second, like too many emails and people started like turning off their attention. And so now like outbound motions are like, less effective than they used to be. And so is that the best use of generative AI? Yeah, we'll see. Like, I don't think that like it's all a matter of quantity. It's really about quality. And so the way we are, investing in AI, because we use AI in meaningful ways to clean the data, synthesize it, make it better, like, or do things that are very important, but like seem simple. Like, how do you define like the parent company and like all of these subsidiaries in a conglomerate? AI can do that instead of a person, and so we deploy AI to do that. But like the way we see AI going is that like you will verbally describe your ICP to an agent, and the agent will translate that into data points that make sense for your target market and build the workflow on behalf of the customer.
That would be massively powerful.
And so that's what
So how far away are we from that?
I think like 6 months.
Okay.
I think the agent that we have already like can find any data that exists. You're right, there is tons of data. So the problem is not, oh, can I find the data? The data exists, it's most likely public. There is social media and there is tons of like places where you can find data, but the problem is like to find the data that is good for you, for your ICP, for your go-to-market motions, target customers and so on. And so the idea is not just the agent that goes and finds the data, but that builds a repeatable and sustainable process, AKA the workflow, to get the data at scale and like bring like the updated version of that data like every cadence that you want or like in real time.
So you mentioned a client like MongoDB at an enterprise level, and when you're pitching your SaaS at an enterprise level, adopting your technology means huge disruption, huge change in workflows. It means efficiencies, but you're getting people to change their behavior on a massive level. What does that look like from your point of view, from a sales point of view, when you're trying to get people to make a decision that's going to completely alter how they operate? Maybe give them savings, but how do you win that argument?
We are lucky because we don't change the screen. So we put the data fully enriched back into the CRM, Salesforce, HubSpot, or like into Outreach or like SalesLoft or any tool that they are currently using.
Okay.
So the not changing the screen is very important because it requires less stress.
Okay, and less training.
Less training, less stress, and also like, it's always very complex to add another screen for people to look at. So that's easier for us. But you are right that like bringing our automated workflow, like impact some workflows that already exist at the company, typically manual workflows. So like, processes that people have built over time, because there isn't really like a technology.
And a lot of people are wedded to those things. Like that's like, someone's job, I suppose.
Exactly. They have some analysts that like are doing that. They bring the data in CSV files and bring it into the CRM. And so that's their job. So I think that like, it's a cultural transformation that we can bring because what we have seen, and this is, I think, very interesting, in customers that have adopted Scalestack is that they used to be process people. So like I have like a manual workflow, take a CSV file, put it into the CRM, try to make sense of the data sort of manually or with my team of analysts. But then that means spending a lot of time wrangling basic data. And then at the end of this process, you're basically tired and you cannot do anything else. If you adopt Scalestack, what we have seen our customers is that from process people, they become product managers because all of a sudden they have all of the data that they need. And then that's what's fun is to build on top of that high quality data. Because the promise of AI, of like, launching apps, or business for any business use case is that you need good data to begin.
And do you make an economic argument to them in the purchase process to say, look, if you make this investment, here's what here's what the ROI is on grunt work saved?
Yeah, but it's mostly for the reps because like if you give the reps good quality data, first of all, the trust increases so they can use actually the data in their CRM. And secondly, that they don't have to spend like time manually researching that data. There are stats that say that 36% of the time of an average rep is spent, basically making sense of data about prospects and companies. And so that's the, cost saving that we can impact. Like 36% of a rep's time, which is extremely expensive, can be saved.
So finally, as we meet here in Dublin and we look to 2025, what are the top 2 or 3 things on your horizon for the company? What do you hope to achieve in the next 12 months?
I used to be at AWS before founding Scalestack, and there I was building a lot of partnerships for companies to partner with AWS. I think in the life cycle of Scalestack, we are now at the point where we have to start building a partner network of our own. Because go-to-market, any go-to-market tool needs to be inserted in an ecosystem of things that exist, from the CRM to tools they use for outreach. And so partner strategy is going to be very important for me to create business, but also to better impact our customers' outcomes using Scalestack. So partner strategy is absolutely number 1 priority. And then our own go-to-market is obviously very important and top of mind for me. We just finished like a fundraising, and it was successful, and so that's out of my
Stress.
And so now I can fully focus on like getting more customers, helping more of them to achieve their business outcomes.
Elio, thank you for joining me today,
and
thank you for joining SaaS GTM today. If you'd like to get any more from us, tune into our social channels, YouTube, and you'll get more information there. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.